bookstore there, they must have for their classes. And they had innovative percussion mallets at Eastman. So that means they're good. All right, so these are good mallets. Good, if you want to pick them up. They're not too expensive, but they're good enough to get you through. With the mallets, there are two types of coverings that we need to know. The Vic Firth mallet, which is here, it's similar to this. I'm going to use this as an example because it actually looks not destroyed. This looks destroyed. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. This is called a mushroom head. All right? The style of covering is mushroom head. And what they do is they take your mallet head, that's not going to work. All right, imagine this is a bare mallet head, more or less, and they take your felt. This is actually felt, the same kind of felt you would use inside a piano, felt. And then they take it and they wrap it around the head, and then it's sewn underneath, okay, to shore it up. So this mallet, the piece of felt, it's a round piece of felt, went on the top of it, was wrapped around, and then sewn underneath. Now we all know from geography in high school, looking at those weird maps that we see on the wall, you'd see the map of the world, and it had all these weird cutouts, right? It was all kind of oddly shaped, and we tried to figure out what that was. We found out eventually that you cannot take a three-dimensional object, the globe, and turn it into a two-dimensional object, the map that you would see on the wall, without distorting things, right? Things get distorted unless you're a flat earther, and you're wrong. Unless you're a flat earther, right? But we all know the Earth is a globe. I just said something completely. Anyway, I hope we're on the same page with that. Anyway, so if you take a flat object, a piece of felt, and you wrap it around a round object, you're obviously going to have the same problems. So this mallet, the downside of this mallet is that it sometimes has inconsistencies when it's wrapped around the head, okay? The upside is, well, actually, let me describe the other mallet and then we'll talk about the differences. The other type of mallet is called a cartwheel mallet, and this is an example of a cartwheel mallet. You'll notice that you can see the mallet on the top and on the bottom. And the way these are made is you take a strip of felt, I don't know, about that long, whatever, and you wrap it around this way, and then you sew it on top, and you sew it on the bottom, okay? But because you took a strip, you'll also have to sew it in the middle. So you have a seam where we've wrapped it around and we've sewn it together, okay? So this is the cartwheel mallet. So the upside of this is that it's consistent, right? You don't have any weird pockets because you've taken a thing and wrapped it around that way, and so it's really consistent. The downside is that you have a seam. Right? This is a place where you've sewn it together, and so you don't want to play on that seam. It sounds awful if you play on that seam. Let me see if I can demonstrate. This is not seam. I'm going to play on the seam here. It's hard, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's kind of splatty and you can feel it. This seam actually is not bad. I have others that are even more nasty sounding. So with the cartwheel mallet, that seam is something we need to make sure we don't play on. With the old mushroom, there is no seam, so you can play anywhere on the mallet. Okay? But the problem is, like I said, sometimes it's inconsistent. This, it's more consistent, but you have to be careful of the seam, which is why we label it. I have a marker that I put on here to label the seam, so when I'm playing, I always make sure I can see the seam as I'm playing. Okay? I always make sure I can see that. So the two types of mallet coverings are the mushroom and cartwheel. Now mushroom, there's a new term for that. I've seen some new companies have a new term, and I'll look it up, see if I can find that, see what that might be. So mushroom and cartwheel. Okay, I like the cartwheel, but the mushroom works well, and the Vic Firth is a mushroom head because it's really, really simple. Now, speaking of heads, notice the difference, all right? All of your timpani mounts need to live in plastic bags. Timpani mallets need to live in plastic bags. This head, this stick is older than you guys, all right? The stick is very, very old. This one here. It lives in a plastic bag. It looks like this. This stick is, what, probably 2 or 3 years old, okay? Does not live in a plastic bag. So if you own your own sticks, you need to keep them in plastic bags. If you have school sticks, they need to live in a plastic bag. Plastic bags save your sticks. You never want to touch the felt with your hands. You never want to put them on the floor. You always want to cover your timpani. Dust destroys this felt, all right? So you want to keep dust away from it as much as possible. So keep your timpani covered, keep your mallets off the floor, don't touch the mallet heads, and use a plastic bag. If I drop my sticks on the floor, I always blow them off to make sure that they're clean, all right? Because they will get destroyed over time. So I always keep my mallets in plastic bags. If you look at my bag here, there's plastic bags all over it to keep my mallets safe, okay? So plastic bags. And if you don't have the original plastic bag, just go to Ziploc, and you can put, just covering up the mallet heads, you can put in one Ziploc for each mallet. Now I do that, and typically in a school setting, it lasts all of like 3 days, and then the plastic's gone. So just try it, see if you can get your kids to do it, or make them buy their own sticks so they can see how much damage they do to their sticks by not covering it, by keeping it exposed. So you want to make sure it's covered. So Vic Firth T1s or the Innovative Percussion CT, and there's a bunch of different numbers. CT3 I think is the medium one, but any of those CT line are good. All right. I have no idea how much time we've done. Let me see if the camera tells me how much time we're going on here. I think it split it up into segments because it says 7 minutes, and I know for a fact we've been going longer than 7 minutes. But we'll go a little bit farther, and maybe we'll split this up. Maybe it'll split up, and then you can watch it in 20 minutes. I think it does 20-minute chunks, and if that's the case, I need to tell my machine not to do that. So we'll have to figure that out. Okay, let's talk beating spot. So when you play timpani, we'll start with the beating spot. When you play timpani, you want to hit 1/3 the radius. Okay, the radius is the distance from the center of the drum to the edge. So you want to play 1/3 the radius. Okay, you're not going to really be able to see it on here, but if this is my center, this is my edge, 1/3 the radius gets me here. Okay, so you'll be able to hear a difference in the tone. So here is where I'm supposed to play. Now if I go to the center of the drum, right on the center, you can hear, obviously sounds terrible, right? If I go to the edge, here's nice and high. Same thing with the snare drum. Remember our snare drum. The center is low with very little resonance. The edge is very ringy but too thin, high overtones, and we want to find that best spot. Now with timpani, that's the only spot. So you never ever want to play in the middle of the drum. You never ever want to play on the edge unless you're Marshall Nedler and you're playing one of the Carter etudes and it tells you to. Some pieces, it's actually fairly common for them to adjust where you're playing on the drums to get some different colors. But unless it says play in the center or play in the edge, then you don't want to do that. So what we want to play is 1/3 the radius. Now, you mathematicians know this is the 32-inch drum, this is the 23-inch drum. Obviously, the radius of this drum is farther in than this drum. So because my radius is smaller, my 1/3 the radius is smaller, so I need to be closer to the rim on this drum than I am on this drum. Okay? So with that being said, when I set my drums up, I don't set them up in a complete semicircle. I set them up in a slightly arching fashion, almost like a shell a little bit, where this drum is farther away from me than this drum. Okay, and right now this drum is too close, so I'm going to move it. So I like to have this drum slightly farther away from me than this drum, so when I'm playing, I can hit my beating spot without having to adjust my arms. I don't want to have to bring my arms in to play in the beating spot. One of the things you can do, shut your eyes, play where you want to play, and if you're getting a good sound, then you're good. This drum is also a little too close, so I would move it out to play where I want to play, okay, to get a really good sound. Again, 1/3 the beating spot is where we want to hit. All right, let's talk about the grips. There are 3 grips that the book talks about, okay, 3 main grips. The first is called let's talk about the easy one, the German grip. The German grip is exactly like your snare drum grip, all right? Thumb on the side of the stick, index finger opposite, your fingers around the stick. The German grip is exactly like the snare drum grip, okay? The next grip we talk about is the French grip. The French grip takes the exact same grip, turns it on its side, and your thumb is up. Your thumbs are up. So your hands are to the side. German, palm down. French, your hand is to the side, palm to the side, thumb on top. The third one the book talks about is the American grip, which really doesn't exist, but it's kind of in the middle. All right, it's a slightly angled hand position. The grip that most timpanists use, almost all of the working timpanists, the most successful timpanists are using the French grip. All right, so we talked about French and German grip. You can imagine the sounds they create. If you think about German sounds versus French sounds. The German grip is going to give me a darker sound, all right, a little bit more low end. The French grip is going to give me a thinner sound, a little bit higher sound. We like the French grip because the timpani, the sound we want today on the drums, is a little bit lighter of a sound, and it's able to kind of sing along with the ensembles. We want to think about being a little bit lighter. Now, as an educator, if you have your kids playing the German grip, which you think, oh, that's easy because it's the same as snare drum. The problem is they approach the timpani like they approach the snare drum. And as we talked about on snare drum, what you're not supposed to do, but what a lot of kids do, is playing into the drum. Okay? By having that German grip, it makes me play the timpani like a snare drum. And I'm going to play into the drum, and I'm not going to get a really good tone. If I just tell my students, just turn your hand to the side, thumbs up, and you'll be golden, that fixes a lot of stuff, because by just turning your hands up, it helps me come out of the drum and play a lot lighter, right? A lot more nimbly. That's a really great way to play. So the grip that I'm going to recommend, and the one that we're going to work on, is the French grip versus the German grip. Again, German, palm down. French, palm to the side, thumb up. American grip is that something in the middle, which really doesn't exist. Referencing your book, okay, he's got a picture on 185, figure 5.9 and 5.10. He shows the German grip and he shows the French grip. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be spending most of our time on the French grip. It's more useful for us. Okay, so the stroke on timpani. Typically, if I'm dealing with high school kids, if I tell them to get their thumb up, it's going to solve a lot of their problems. And so the stroke is exactly the same way we do on snare drum, just thumb up. Okay, so you can use your wrist coming out of the drum. Again, you want the drum to be as resonant as possible coming out of the drum. One of the things that a lot of timpanists do, and I do a lot of, is I use my fingers to play. Fingers take a long time to develop. This took me months of dedicated practice to get down. It's very, very, very difficult to really generate a good finger technique. It takes a while, and so most students, I don't really go there with them in high school, but in college we do spend some time talking about generating the ability to play with the fingers. Okay, so the way to learn to play, let me demonstrate finger technique versus wrist. So this is wrist technique. Now if I use fingers, fingers allow me to play faster and lighter, which is what I really like. When I roll, I use my fingers almost exclusively. Which helps me generate what the kind of roll that I want. All right, so to work on the finger technique, most students, and I was this way, cannot do it at the drum. To do a finger stroke at the drum is very difficult, which we'll explain for a second. The main reason is, if my stick is down, this technique using only fingers, all I have to do, the only mechanism I have of moving the stick is me moving my fingers like this. Which obviously, if my stick's already down, there's nothing I can do, right? I can't do anything. So to start the stroke, the stick needs to already be up. And we talked about this with the snare drum, that free rebound, allowing the stick to come up. This takes a while to generate the ability to let the stick come back all the way. The tendency is to do this, and once I'm down, I have no ability to generate the stroke anymore. And so I'm kind of stuck, so you end up just using wrist. So to work on this stroke, the best way to do it is to start upside down, right? Imagine the drums being in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine playing drums above me. So I can use gravity, which is the rebound of the head. So imagine I hit the drum, and now the rebound kicks the stick back. So automatically I have that rebound, so then I can practice doing my stroke. So doing the stroke upside down. So the way we do this, thumb on top, fingers like this, okay? We want to think about being on our fingers. We don't want to be doing this with our hand. We want to be on our fingertips, okay? So when we're upside down, we're using our fingertips to move the stick. In the book, he shows a good picture of it. Well, there's a picture of it on page 188. That kind of gives you an idea. And you can see where the stick is lying on his fingers, right? So the stick is kind of towards the, not right on the last pads, but towards the pad, all right? So we're doing upside down, like this. And what I do with the students, my Timpani students, we start here for about a week, playing upside down, okay? Oftentimes when I'm driving in my car, I'll hit the roof of my car, okay? Nice distracted driving technique. So I'm going to play upside down to generate that rebound of the head. And then eventually, I'm going to move it sideways, maybe hit a wall. I don't want to hit a wall with these sticks. Okay, again, you're somewhat getting some rebound, but we also have gravity helping to bring the sticks back. And then finally, we get to where we're doing it on a drum. What we need to do is make sure we start the stick beyond 90 degrees. So here's 90 degrees, I'm a little bit beyond 90 degrees. Make the stroke down, and come back up. Make the stroke down, and come back up, all right? Again, you have to be relaxed to allow the stick to come back all the way. Because again, the only mechanism I have to move the stick is to pull it down. I have no way to bring the stick up officially because I'm only using my fingers. Okay? This takes a while to generate. The tendency is to do this. Instead of this, if you can see that, instead of this, tendency is to bring it out here and to do that. So what you want to do is make sure they have their thumb kind of tight against their hand so we can generate the stroke correctly. Okay? So ideally, you're working on this, and again, it takes a while, it takes a lot of time to really get the the idea of this finger stroke. So again, with your high school kids, I wouldn't even go there.